Welcome to the Italian Football Podcast.
Let's preview Spain versus Italy on Thursday. Some key questions ahead of this game, right? And I'm going to run down each one and then we can discuss each one. So, first of all, do Italy stick with the 4-2-3-1 system? See, I called it in our preview. I said it will not surprise me if Italy had played a back four, and they did play a back four. But obviously, it was a hybrid system, of course. But it was always going to be a hybrid system with Spalletti. It's the way he plays. He doesn't have set positions, build up in a three. You know, as I said before, defenders moving into midfield. Blah blah blah. Do we stick with a 4-2-3-1? Or do we move back to more, let's say, three classic centre-backs in I don't know, with the Buongiorno coming in, for example?
Yes. For me, it's a no-brainer. When you see how Spain play and you know that they're going to have the majority of the possession, I want to see a more classic 3-5-1-1 with Buongiorno in the centre of defence. I'd probably rest Calafiori for this one, put Bastoni to the left, and either start Darmian or Mancini to the right, or play Calafiori to the left and Bastoni to the right. But regardless, Cambiasso to the right, Di Marco to the left. I want to see, Barella, Pellegrini, Jorginho, and Scamacca up front, and then either have Fratesi or even play Cristante, Jorginho, Barella, and then Pellegrini in the number 10 behind Scamacca, because I think that's going to be key. You're going to need players who can control the ball when you win it from Spain. And you're going to need pace to attack, whether you do it with Cambiasso or Bellanova down the right, or if you have, if you put Cambiasso on the left and Bellanova on the right, because Cambiasso is such an intelligent player that he can invert, he can do whatever, he can play in many positions. I want to see a more traditional 3-5-1-1 against Spain, because again, this is not a game that Italy need to win, and it's a game that Spain don't need to win. In fact, I think both of them just need 1 point, and they're through.
Probably, and then certainly.
And in the final game, then Italy will play a Croatia who has to win or draw to get through, and Spain are playing Albania, who they're going to thrash even with their third team, and they'll win the group. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I want a little bit of, not biscotto, but use your brains here a little bit. Listen, Italy don't need to win this game. They had to beat Albania. That's it. That's what they had to do. Now against Spain, they don't need to win. They just need to draw. And I think Spain.
No, Spalletti doesn't really do pragmatism, does he? He tries to win. So I don't think. I mean, it's an interesting one. It's a difficult one to know, because looking at this from a tactical point of view, Spain, their pressing was in the first half was absolutely magnificent against Croatia. Croatia couldn't even with their brilliant midfield that Croatia have. They just couldn't get out. Spain were just smothering them, taking the ball off them, and in that first half. So Italy are going to need. It's not going to be like the Albania game, in that as brilliant as both Calafiori and Bastoni were and are. The Albania press. Let's be honest, to put it nicely, their press was pathetic. Yeah, it was half-assed. It was neither one thing or the other. It wasn't a press, but it wasn't sitting back either. It was kind of not one or the other. And that made it so easy for Italy to kind of play out. As good as their patterns were, as good as everything was set up, it was quite, for a Spalletti team that's going to be well trained, it was quite easy for them to play out. It's not going to be easy against Spain. They're going to be pressed the hell out of, and that is where you need press breakers. And obviously Bastoni is fantastic at breaking the press. So is Calafiori. Is Buongiorno? I don't know. They don't all have to be good at it, but they do have to be able to get out. It might be a case of, and Spalletti actually hinted at this in his post-match press conference, that Italy have to be more direct in this game, and maybe they have to miss out the midfield. Maybe they have to go over the top, do some long balls to Scamacca. And I actually think we'll come to Spain's weaknesses in a bit, but I actually think for me, that's probably Spain's biggest weakness, is that ball over the top potentially. So 100%. switching the play. So I don't want to sit on the fence. I'm not sure what I would do, because at the moment it's too early right now to know what Italy's 11 is going to be. We'll know through the training how they're training, what it's going to be. At the moment, the papers are saying it's going to be the same lineup, but it's too early for us to say whether they'll keep an unchanged team.
No, I think it would be crazy. I would make 2 or 3
What
changes.
else would you make any changes in the midfield or the attack?
I actually think Chiesa as a number 10 behind Scamacca is a good way to go here. I will, the reason why I said Cristante, Jorginho, Barella is because I want to give that extra cover in front of the defense centrally, because that's where Spain kind of usually swarm teams. The problem, I think, in the Croatia game was the midfield. Croatia's midfield was overrun by 5 players because Morata dropped in. But the problem was that the defense was ball watching. The Croatian defense did not help out at all. They were completely static, and they don't have any wide players to help out either.
No.
So that it made Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic completely just outnumbered and overrun.
But this is a different Spain to the Spain of Luis Enrique.
Without a doubt.
This is a much more direct Spain. Spain actually had less possession in this game than Croatia did, which is incredible. But having still said that, though, despite the fact that this is a Spain team that is more direct, it is still a Spain team that I think had gone 130 odd game or 100 and I can't remember how many games it had been. It's some insane number of games that they'd gone with having more possession than the opposition. It was absolutely mad stat that they had, and so and I think they had more possession percentage possession than anyone else in the qualifiers in Europe. So it's still a team that despite this game, it's still a team that is fantastic on the ball.
No, they are.
And their midfield is very special. Like with Rodri's the best centre midfielder in the world. For me, it's not even the best defensive midfielder in the world. It's not even close. He's just a monster of winning the ball. And then Pedri is looking great. Fabian Ruiz, I thought, scored a brilliant goal in this game. But also Spain's attack is so dangerous. I mean, Yamal. I mean, we have to talk about Yamal. This guy is a phenomenon. He's 16 years old. 16 years old, and he plays like he played in that game. I mean, he was absolutely magnificent against a top player as well in Guardiola. Caused him all kinds of trouble. Wow, 16 years old. I mean, how do we defend him? Because he's going to be up 1-on-1 against.
Oh, you cut out. No, you cut out. You don't let them play balls to him where he can go for pace and 1-on-1. You cut out that passing lane, and that's a team effort. The same thing goes on the other wing. Like this is what I'm saying. Italy have to defend as a unit. This is a test of defending as a unit, and whether or not they're ready as a team, an actual team, because they're not going to have too much possession, and they're going to be under lots of pressure. But they need to work for one another. They need to help each other out. They need to move in order to help one another out. Completely opposite to what Croatia did, where they were static, and especially the defense and the attack. They just did not help out the midfield at all. But so that's what I want to see, and that's why I want that like Spalletti alluded to, and you were talking about earlier. That's why I think Chiesa and Scamacca it would be perfect, because if you got Scamacca up front, he can win the ball, he can play off him, and then Chiesa on 1v1s for pace, and so that's what you want to be there. That's a good place to be. And that's why I want to see Bellanova as well, because he's very, very fast. And if he has space to attack, he can hurt you. And so that's why I want to see a bit of a change.
Well, if we're looking
not too many, just 2 or 3 changes.
If we're looking at what gives us cause for optimism in this game, I mean, first of all, Spain are probably going to play the same team. The only possibility is whether Laporte is past fit. He's struggling to be fit for this game. He might make it. He might not make it, and he would probably take the place of Nacho in this game, who doesn't fill me with confidence. If I'm perfectly honest with you, I hope Nacho plays. I think the centre back positions, that is where we can get at Spain. Lenormand and Nacho, if he plays. Laporte is stronger, but I have to be honest, I've not watched any of him in the last year because he's playing in Saudi Arabia. I think we can get at their centre backs, because if you watch the Spain versus Croatia, as brilliant as Spain were in the first half, and I think they did take their foot off the gas. I think they did take their foot off the gas. So a lot of, pretty much most of Croatia's chance creation came in that second half when Spain were 3-0 up, and
Actually, I disagree with that. I think the biggest chances that
Well, if you look
Croatia
at
had.
if you look at the
No, but
numbers,
I'm looking at the game. I'm talking about the first half. After Spain scored their first goal, Croatia had 2 mega chances. But as we spoke about in our preview, the quality of the attack is just not good enough. They missed so many poor finishes and decisive moments.
yeah.
I think the problem that you see with both Croatia and Spain, like I sent you on WhatsApp after that game, look, there are holes defensively in both of these teams for Italy to take
I know.
advantage of.
I agree there. I mean, what I'm saying is that the vast majority of the chances came in the second half. They did create some chances in the first half as well.
I mean, they
Croatia,
could not score to save their
but,
lives. And this is what we were talking about in our preview about how, as good as that midfield is and as good as they create chances, the quality up front that Croatia have is just not
I
what
think
it used to
Croatia
be.
had an XG of over 2 in this game. Of course,
Yeah.
there was a penalty, which
Yeah.
would have counted.
0.8.
Which would have counted a lot. But they still over. I think it was something like 2.4
Yeah.
XG. I mean, whether you're 3-0 up or not 3-0 up. I mean, that's still
That's
quite a lot.
high.
That's high. Yeah. So I mean, I think
Even if you remove the 0.8 or whatever the penalty
yeah,
is.
there was. I mean, if you look at the XG, most of it was the second half, but they did, like you said, they did have at least one big chance in the first half, and
I
another
mean,
one
that was
that was
crazy.
quite good. And so Italy, there are chances here for Italy, especially with the way that Italy play, the way that Spalletti plays.
And Simon, I'm sorry, but he does. I mean, to use a Prem face, he does have a mistake in him. Like Simon has a mistake in him. He does, and for the penalty, for example, he created that chance for Croatia, and no, he does. My thing is try him with shots, test him from the outside because I think put him under pressure. Not so much with maybe just diagonals or
Put
crosses
them under
in.
pressure. It's
Yeah.
a Jack Charlton famous saying. Put them under
Put the
pressure.
goalkeeper under pressure because I think if you pepper him with shots,
Yeah.
I think he does have a mistake in him. I mean, he is a good keeper. Don't get me wrong, but we have seen time and time again in important games he can make absolute howlers, unforced ones.
And also, Cucurella left back actually played
Yeah.
really, really well in this game, and
Yeah,
I think he's also quite important in terms of the way he inverts and the way that he's tactically, like in terms of joining in with the midfield and everything. I actually think he doesn't get enough credit for that. But if we're talking strictly defensively, I mean, I've watched a lot of him in the Premier League. I mean, this guy, he's not a good defender.
No, he's not.
And if you take that, the centre backs as well. I think that obviously going the other way, Spain are fantastic. They could blow you away easily before you've even had a chance. So,
the beginning of the opening 10-15 minutes of that game is going to be very, very key. Italy cannot gift another goal in the opening minute.
What is a shame is that Rodri should have been sent off. Once you give the penalty, that has to be a red. I mean, he doesn't play for the ball; he plays for the man. It should be a red card. The question is whether it was a penalty or not. And I see the debate there. Some might say it was a penalty. Some might say it wasn't a penalty. But once you give that penalty, that has to be a red card for Rodri. And it is our good old friend, the dustbin man for a heart, Michael Oliver. No surprise at all that he didn't give a red card for that. He actually, in September last year, he was paid to go to the UAE by the owners of Manchester City. So who were then?
Oh my God!
He would then.
They were conspiracy.
They were then. Manchester City were on the payroll in the league that have ties to them, and of course he's the referee here, so he's not going to send off a Manchester City player.
Oh, here we go.
Just see Michael Oliver's performances when Manchester City play, and you'll I think you'll know where I'm coming from there. But he should have been sent off for me, and that would have been a massive blow for Spain. This guy is class. I'm sorry. I mean,
no, he is fantastic.
He gets away with so many niggly fouls.
Well, it's a little bit like what Chiellini used to do. He used to get away with them too, because it's one thing about bending the rules and not breaking them, and I think he knows how to do it.
He was like Mark Van Bommel, Sergio Busquets, Thiago Motta, like one of these kind of players that used to just do so many of these niggly fouls and never get
ones, bend the rules without breaking them, and that's intelligence. I think that's a skill, to be honest with you. And people talk about the dark arts, and it's not dark arts. I think that's a skill to understand to know where you break the laws of the game for a foul, but you just bend them, you go them. That to me is a skill, and I think the best players in the world know where that limit goes. And I think I think that he's very, very good at that. And I think that's part of the reason why he's such a pain in the butt to play against.
He is. He's a magnificent player. Just a quick note on Croatia. Having watched them in that Portugal game, we expected a lot more from them, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were both a little bit scared. We were
Yeah.
like, "Wow, they still look like they've got it." But this is. I mean, I don't want to say too much. We've still got to play them. They suddenly looked old in this game. What disappointed me was how naive they were. You just don't expect that. I mean, if you look at the first goal that Spain scored in this game, both fullbacks, Gvardiol and Stanisic, were basically playing as right and left wingers, way high up the pitch, and Croatia they didn't even really have good possession of the ball at the time. It was kind of like an open duel at the time, and they charged up the pitch, and they were completely open at the back, and you could fit a London bus through the centre for Morata to score. I mean, the naivety I thought was insane. You just don't expect that from such an old and experienced Croatia team.
No, it was one of those days where they just had a shit day. I mean, you just gotta. Sometimes players have that. I think it was just one of those days because nothing worked. They didn't press as a unit. There was no structure. They just and Brozovic and Modric aren't getting any younger. So
and the attacker's just not good enough to.
It's really not. And this is what I meant. Like there, people coming at me saying, at us saying, "Oh, but he scored X amount of goals in the Bundesliga."
Yeah, I saw that. A few people saying, "Oh, but Budimir scored."
I'm sorry, but that with all due respect, like there are levels to, there are levels to different leagues, and some leagues are easier to score in than others, and that's just how it is. When they don't have the attack that they used to have once upon a time. It's as simple as that. And above all, the fact that they're playing Guardiola to the left on the wing, like they have problems wide. Croatia have problems.
Well, to be fair, to come back on that, Man City paid Gvardiol a left back as well.
But that's a different kind of.
I mean, personally, I would play him at centre back. But
that's a different. I would
always play my strongest player.
He's not exactly playing a classic fullback at Man City, is he? I mean, they play a different style altogether.
Well, I'd always play my strongest defender at centre back, especially if my centre backs are Pongracic and the other lad they got. So Subasic. So I would.
But the thing is, I'm wondering, since you've got Perisic on the bench, why not just go to a back three and have, play him as a wing back?
Possibly. He did all right actually when he come on. Perisic.
Yeah,
he did decent. Yeah. Okay. Well,
he's a physical specimen, Perisic.
Well, he is.
I know he's not. I know he's getting a bit, but that the way that he takes care of himself.
After an ACL,
I mean, not just that. Even before that. I mean, after Bayern Munich, when he started going into this fitness cult that lots of people get into, and I call it cult because jokingly, like the way he eats, the way he takes care of his body, the way he barely has an ounce of fat on his body. I mean, Bastoni, I remember at Inter was talking about. They asked him about Perisic, and he said, "Yeah, I can't eat like he does. Like in order to look like Perisic and have that kind of those numbers and that for those fitness levels, you have to live and eat like he does, and I can't do that." Like he literally has dedicated his life to being this fitness guy. And that's why he looks as good as he does. And so I'm thinking, given that you have problems in wide areas, why not play a back three, use Perisic as a wing back, because at least you've mitigated the weaknesses you've got in the wide areas, which Croatia do have a problem. They really, really do.
Yeah, for sure. We hope they play like that against us in match day 3.
Yeah, I think I feel bad for Albania. Well, first of all, that game, the fans. I mean, it's such a shame they're not playing that game in 100,000 seater stadium, because the Croatian fans and the Albanian fans, the sound and the atmosphere is going to be mad. And I wish you could have as many people as possible at that game, because it was the Albanian fans in this game and the Croatian fans against Spain, they were so many and they were so loud, and it's a part of it's Balkan football culture is cool when it's in terms.
And that's another thing that Italy did well actually, was quieting that really, really loud crowd. Chiesa said they couldn't even hear
Yeah, no,
couldn't even hear Spalletti
that's what I'm
talk.
saying. Croatia against Albania is going to be it's going to be the best game for fans, I think. Like in terms of atmosphere at the stadium, it's going to be absolutely crazy. I'm not sure where they're playing it, but I wish they would have played it in Berlin or something, like the biggest stadium, because it would be mental, the atmosphere. But I do feel bad. Like, I do feel that Croatia are going to make Albania pay. I think they're going to go into that game pissed off, and I think they're going to make Albania pay.
Yeah, you'd expect a reaction from them, that's for sure.